Hi everyone, I'm John Meersma, and I'm a Cisco instructor at Sunset Learning, and I want to welcome you to our video, Optimizing Wireshark. In this video, we're going to show you how to customize Wireshark so that you can use it to examine TCP flows, SIP flows, VOIP calls, pretty much anything you need when it comes to examining packets on your network. We're going to show you how to create a custom profile to tailor Wireshark to your specific needs and preferences. We'll show you how to customize the appearance, layout, and columns, which is essential for clarity because it makes it easier to find exactly what you're looking for. And we're going to configure TCP filters, which can help pinpoint specific traffic and isolate issues. Creating Wireshark profiles and customizing its appearance can make it a lot easier when analyzing your network. We can make tailored profiles that let us save specific settings, filters, and layouts that apply to different analysis scenarios. Now, this is the default profile, and I know that because it says default on the lower right-hand corner. If we click down there, it brings up a list of the other profiles that are on this machine, and this is exactly what I was just talking about. There's a VoIP profile, so if I'm troubleshooting or if I'm analyzing a SIP capture, I would select the VoIP profile, and all of the settings that I use for SIP would be available. We're going to choose TCP level 1, and now the appearance changes significantly. There's a lot of different ways that we can make changes to how Wireshark looks and what information is displayed. Now, before we get started with making changes, we're going to go back to the profile, and this time we're going to right-click on the lower right-hand side, and this brings up Edit, New, Delete, Import, Export. We can manage our profiles. There's a lot of different ways that we can modify the appearance. We're going to start by going up to Edit and then selecting Preferences. Under Appearance, we'll start with columns. These columns allow us to put things like TCP flags or sequence numbers, acknowledgement numbers, timers, critical information up front and center. We can add columns, remove columns, modify them from here. We can also change colors and fonts to make it easier to spot anomalies and patterns. I'm not a big fan of the small font, but I like to go in and increase the size to make things a little bit more readable. You can change the color of the active selected or the inactive selected item. To do that, we've got two options. The background, which in this case I've set to dark green, and the foreground, which is the font. We could change that to maybe be white. So now, when I click on a packet, it'll show up green and white. We can also make changes to the appearance of filters. Lime green is a valid filter. Pink is an invalid filter. Again, whatever works for you. We can click Layout and then change the panes that are displayed. Pane 1 is packet list, 2 is details, by default 3 is packet bytes. Not for me, I've got that set to none. One of the things that I do like to see, though, is packet diagram. If you want to see what a packet looks like, it's a pretty useful tool that displays the layer 2, layer 3, layer 4 header. It takes up a lot of real estate, though, so I don't like to activate it, but it is kind of neat. Let's go back, turn that off. So under Preferences, we have the ability to make changes to the panes, the columns, and the fonts in some of the colors. Speaking of colors, if we go to View, Coloring Rules, now we can change the colors of just about everything. Coloring rules allow us to visually distinguish packet types, so it's easier to identify things like retransmissions, errors, or specific protocols just by looking at it. Now for myself, I've made one change here. If I see a TCP packet that has either the synchronize or the finish flag set to 1, it's going to show up as dark blue. You can click on it. We can, again, set the background. We can customize it, red, blue, green. We can pick a screen color and then freestyle it. Choose the color that you want. Foreground lets us do the exact same thing to the font. That way, whatever's in that filter is going to jump out at you. You'll be able to identify it instantly based on your color choice. Now we're going to talk about Wireshark filters, which make analysis much easier by isolating specific packets within a capture based on specific components like TCP flags, IP addresses, protocol. They can be customized to help us spot just about any imaginable attribute within a capture. There's a lot of different ways that we can apply filters in Wireshark. It's one of the most powerful tools that it has. Probably the easiest is just to go up to the filter bar and start typing. Once Wireshark recognizes a valid filter, the filter bar changes to lime green, and then we can click enter or click the arrow to apply. Now we're only looking at TCP packets. I'm going to go ahead and clear this filter because I want to show you another option that I like to use, and that is statistics, conversations. This shows us all the flows from the perspective of Layer 2 Ethernet, Layer 3 IP, or Layer 4 TCP and UDP. This capture has 14 TCP flows, 14 conversations. Now, if we're looking for one in particular, it may or may not be easy to find. Notice that this one has 2 megabytes. So if I'm trying to find the file transfer from one of the servers, that looks like the most obvious because the rest are just a few kilobytes. Now, once I've selected it, if we right-click, we can choose to apply as filter, selected, and then A and B. Now, if we close this out, we can see that we're only looking at this file transfer. Take a look at the filter now. We're filtering based on a 4-tuple, the source IP address and port, the destination IP address and port. If you want to save your filter, no problem. You can just click the plus, create a filter button, give your filter a name, and then if you want to go back to it at any time, I'm going to unselect the filter, remove it, so that I'm just looking at the Wireshark capture, click the filter button, and we're right back to this TCP conversation. Another filter that I like to use with TCP, and one that I've saved, is the TCP.analysis.flags filter. This immediately shows us if we have any problems in our TCP flow. Now there's one more thing that I want to show you how to add to your profile, and that's a delta time column. Delta time shows us the time difference between consecutive packets, and it'll help us identify delays, bursts, or anything unusual when we start examining our Wireshark captures. There's a few different ways that we can add columns, but we're going to go back to Edit, choose Preferences. Under Appearance, we'll select Columns. Down here, just add the plus. Give your column a name, and then choose the parameter that you're wanting to put in the column. We're going to choose Delta Time Displayed. Now, I'm going to move it so that it's next to the time column. Then click OK. Now, let's see this in action. If we click the demo filter, we can go back and examine the file transfer capture. The purpose of delta time is to show the time between each packet's arrival. If there's gaps, that can indicate that we have a problem. Now, if we want to find out which packet has the largest delta time, we can filter on it and then drop down to the bottom. Looks like packet 511 has a delta time of 4.5 seconds. Now, if we want to understand why, we can go back and filter on the number, and then we can see packet 511 in the context of the overall conversation and see if we can figure out what's going on. So it looks like there's an HTTP conversation taking place. We've got a request, there's a response, and then packet 511 comes in with another HTTP request. This is where the 4.5 second delay takes place. So what's going on? Well, most likely somebody's authenticating. The user is entering a username and a password. They're trying to access a file. They want to download it over HTTP. Once the authentication takes place, then it looks like the file transfer occurs because 172 is the one that sent the GET request. After 4.5 seconds, 192 acknowledges and then starts sending data. Here's two 1460 packets. Here's two more 1460 packets. Here's two more. Here's two more. So we can see pretty clearly what most likely occurred. One more thing since we're here looking at this conversation. Earlier, when we examined the coloring rules, I pointed out that there is a coloring rule that says if you see a TCP packet with the synchronized bit set to 1, color it dark blue. Yet, up here at the top, we see a SYN, a SYNAC. Both of those have the synchronized bit set to 1, and it's not showing up as dark blue. Why not? Well, let's go back. Coloring rules. And there is another rule ahead of it. See, the order matters when it comes to processing coloring rules. An HTTP packet shows up as light green. All of these are HTTP packets, so they're all going to show up light green unless we move this higher. Now, this will take place before HTTP. And there it is. The first two packets, the ones that have the synchronized bit set to 1, show up as dark blue. And if we drop down to the bottom, the packet that has the finish bit is also set to blue. Now, we can also see that we've got some TCP errors. But that, what they are and what they mean, is a topic for another video. In this demonstration, we showed you how to create Wireshark filters, how to modify your preferences, add columns, change your layout, customize your fonts and colors. We also showed you how to apply filters, save them as filter buttons, and quickly locate TCP flows using conversations.